Lost in Translation explores the inherent complexities of language. Having experienced the limitation of language myself, I invited a group of artists to explore the crevices in communication. Language is meant to articulate thought, yet it carries within it a chasm between intent and interpretation. We start with Shaurya Kumar's work titled Homeland, a word that carries a deep personal and political weight. Shaurya's use of gold leaf, a symbol of richness and sanctity, is used here to talk about displacement, erasure, exclusion, divisive debate over borders and nationalism. From here, we move to Ravi Kashi's Entangled Voices, an accordion book depicting a simple drawing of entangled wires, a very familiar sight in any metropolitan city in Asia today, alluding to cross communication and cross talk. My father said juxtaposes two generational viewpoints between the artist's father and himself. The book is in Kannada and English and explores his difficult relationship through a dialogue between the father and son. Moving on to Anindita's Echoes of a Lingering Loss, the artist speaks about politicization and marginalizations of a language through a complex layering of jali that is a metaphor for porous boundaries between identity and ideology. By using the Urdu script to write the preamble, she evokes a shared history, heritage, and collective memory. The work echoes erasure, but with possibilities of reclamation. Gargi Raina's work Shafa takes a medical manuscript written during the time of Shah Jahan in Farsi, here in its ancient form, which is not today readable. The manuscript speaks of Shafa, of remedy, of healing the wounds of war and disease. Gargi's work has long centered around Kashmir. Endangered Birds, Endangered Scripts juxtaposes fragments of Lal Ded's work in Sharda script on birchwood bark, on top of the artist's grandmother's shawl. The book alongside has images of the monal pheasant, whose sounds are rarely heard today in the wild. The last sounds of the kuwai bird is both a protest and lament. We move from the first gallery to the other to a very
whether
subtle
physical or
intervention which
mental,
many have
the
missed.
most
A
important
voice
practice
clear
is
in
to
some
maintain
parts
a
and yet
balance.
muffled. It is the voice of
That
my
is to say,
father
an
speaking to me.
equipoise.
Of late, I find I carry a
Whether
constant niggling feeling that I
happiness
must absorb
or
all that he has to say.
unhappiness.
Sumakshi Singh's memory is a layered tapestry of floating words talking about the ephemeral and constantly shifting memory. Here we come face to face with Achia Anzi's video, Not Different. Achia is an academic, an artist, and a poet. He made India his home for over 2.5 decades. In this work, he plays with the idea of translating Hebrew poetry into English and Hindi. Now We Need a New Torah is a poem written by Ilahanan Nair. And Akhya, through the translation, has underscored the loss of meaning of this poem as it loses its essence. We come to Priya Ravish Mehra's works. Priya's work has to do with lost scripts, hopes, and their reclamation, as she repairs the fabric with a thin layer of paper pulp. This serves as an evocation of fading memories of long forgotten texts or stories, and in perhaps a hope of resurrecting them. This is one of her last works done sitting in her garden at her hill home in Hartola. Ravi Kashi's Where Words Bloom Like Flowers is a beautiful installation of Kannada words and poetry that hang on to his being like a vine of blooming flowers, informing his identity through the lens of his mother tongue. Memory, too, is a larger installation by Sumakshi exploring the constantly shifting nature of memory and underlines how our sense of identity that relies so much on memory is inherently unstable because memory is constantly shifting. The work questions the role of memory as a reliable anchor for identity. Youdhisthir Maharjan's delicately carved books explore the intrusion of nuance, and deleting a letter can change the entire meaning of a text. He explores ambiguity and futility of words in describing and experiencing feelings. Banned Books by Youdhisthir Maharjan is a political work reflecting the state of censorship in the world today. The artists have tried to explore the crevices of communication and misunderstanding, touching the spheres of the political, the personal, the philosophical, and the religious, where the sequential modification of information has huge ramifications. You are invited to explore the delicate interplay between intention and interpretation, the space of gain and loss through the lens of language. And yet, our deepest communication, both interpersonal and intrapersonal, is beyond the spoken word. Beautifully encapsulated in a Sanskrit term which is nirvan, literally meaning beyond vani, beyond the spoken word. Because that feeling, if articulated, would be lost in translation.